Hi, I'm Hannah Jones and welcome to this week's MASTS CAST. It is the final MASTS CAST for 2020, and if you're watching this episode and you've watched any of our previous episodes, thank you. It wasn't easy to speak to a camera and to an audience who I can't see, and I had no idea how well these video casts were going to do. But over the last few months, I have had the pleasure of interviewing nearly 100 people over 30 different episodes, and it's been fantastic to see faces to names that we might often see written in emails or in newsletters, and also to provide people the opportunity to talk about their work in their own words, and to provide them a platform to speak about whether it was an organisation that they were representing or latest research, or just a call for people to get involved in. It was really great to get to know many of you, and if you would like to be interviewed in 2021, if you have some information or would like to have some kind of publicity, PR about what you're up to, then please drop me an email and we can arrange an interview and get that broadcasted to the MASTS community. In this week's episode, I have one interview, and it is with the MASTS Executive Director, Professor David Paterson. In our interview, he summarises what this year has meant for MASTS and also highlights what we can expect from MASTS in the future too.
Well, I've got a great first example. Got my Christmas gear on for our Christmas Zoom today, including my Looney Tunes tie, and normally I'd have a kilt on, but I'm not pushing it that far for a Zoom meeting. But that's an example. We're online where normally we would have met in person. And Zoom has been a rescue package in some ways. When COVID hit, I don't think any of us were quite prepared for what it would mean. But there have been some ways we've turned it to our advantage. It's a dreadful situation, but I have been hugely impressed with how the academic community have responded and how the MASTS community have responded. And we've done things we wouldn't have done, and we've developed new ways of working, which we'll retain into the future. And I can give some easy examples, such as moving more online with the MASTS casts, which we're in the middle of now, and of course the MASTS Annual Science Meeting, which this year reached 28 countries and had the largest number of delegates that we've ever had. So while meeting in person, I think is essential, that there are things you cannot do, cannot see, cannot interpret on Zoom. However, we have learned new ways of working and spreading the profile of MASTS, and that's been very beneficial. So we've learned a lot. And the one thing I would say, I've been tremendously impressed with the MASTS group and with the whole academic community in responding to these challenges, and it's been a tough time.
Absolutely. And you've already mentioned some of the things that have happened this year for MASTS, but what have been those kind of key development for MASTS over this past year? Not only just moving online, but anything else that we should remember? It's been a very long year. Lots has happened.
Well, it's kind of a perfect storm. You know, we've got COVID, we've got Brexit, we've got COP26 looming. So there's been a lot to do. And actually, one of the other things about moving online is that the travel has reduced, which is good. You know, our carbon footprint's gone down. But actually, the working hours in the day has almost increased. And I'll admit it. I mean, I used to read the minutes for the meeting I was going to in Glasgow or Aberdeen on the train. Now I can put 2 of those meetings into my diary in one day, and there's no space to read the minutes. So that means that sometimes your working day extends. So rather than it being an easier version of work, it's a different version of work, but you have to still organize yourselves. And MASTS has been the same. We've seen new initiatives emerging and being developed, like the Climate Change Forum under B. Birks, which has really taken off and had a fantastic initial conference online just the other week. And we've taken the success of the annual science meeting, and there are other initiatives emerging, and we're putting 2 new initiatives, at least 2 in fact, forward to our governing council. And so there will be news about those new directions and new partnerships, which is quite exciting. So a lot has happened, and also MASTS has matured. I mean, we've been going for 10 years now, and evidence of that is in the kind of work that we do. We very much support the marine community in Scotland. We work very hard to support Scottish Government, and that is recognised. But in addition, now we're running the Super DTP programme and the Sustainable Management of Marine Resources UKRI programme, which is about 12.5 million. So MASTS as an organisation has matured and people put their trust in it now. And I think that's something to be proud of. But, you know, if you go to a desert island, you have to take one thing with you. If I took my one MASTS thing with me, it would be, well, an exemplar would be a meeting I was in the other day with Scottish Government. And the leader of the unit I was talking to was a MASTS graduate student. And when we see the students we trained early in the MASTS cycle are now pursuing their new professional careers and leading on how Scotland responds to all of the challenges we're facing, that makes me immensely proud.
My next question is now looking into the future. What are the imminent plans for MASTS?
Well, I wouldn't say imminent, but maybe medium to long term. We've been through one SFC review. There's another one. Certainly, I think most people recognise the power and versatility of the pools in Scotland. There is a new initiative, which is Research Innovation Scotland, which focuses on the work that the pools do together. And this is partly in response to the Heathwaite report. But it's also a natural evolution that once these organisations reach maturity, they begin to be able to look outward more and, you know, enhance those interdisciplinary strands. I would say that MASTS has always been interdisciplinary because we're not a topic driven except under the wide framework of marine and even some salty and actually quite fresh water habitats. So we've always been marine, combining physics, chemistry, etc. But we do want to work more with our other colleagues with their expertise in physics and life sciences. And so through RIS, we are now doing that. In addition to that, we still have, you know, a limited capacity, limited person hours to pursue different things. So we have to prioritize. And one of the things we would like to prioritize in the next iteration of MASTS is more working with industry and with the innovation centres. We think that can be strengthened. So I see a future for MASTS, and one of the real reasons for that is that we're facing these challenges we've mentioned: climate change, the Brexit negotiations, the changes in how we might govern our seas. So you can say that MASTS is actually more essential as an organisation now than it was when it was formed. And in fact, going into the future, we'll need it even more because we're going to have to be efficient. But in addition, we're now looking at things like behavioural change with our POP initiative, People, Ocean, Planet. You know, it's not just about the science. It's about how the science is used and how people understand the science so that behavioural change can happen. And we need that kind of initiative. So we're developing on the science, but beginning to think more about how that science can be used and applied to help address these challenges. And that's not going to stop. We're going to need that kind of program, you know, into the long-term future.
A lot going on for MASTS near and in the future, as you've just said. Is there anything else that you can highlight that's coming up for MASTS? What does that crystal ball say for MASTS?
So I think the challenges to MASTS are clear, and the challenges that we're addressing are clear. So the future will be an evolution. You know, if you look at how MASTS started out with very fixed ambitions and targets, they've all been met. The targets have changed. The nature of the work we do has changed, and I'm sure that will continue. We will continue to evolve in order to address the problems. And one of the things that we would like to see, you know, support to more long-term data, to the better use of data that is produced, you know, whether it's from industry, from oil and gas, renewables, aquaculture. If we can put all of the data that's available together to think more holistically about programs, about the environment, about, you know, spatial planning, and we've seen the controversy recently about fisheries and, you know, all of the controversies about how we manage our environment carefully. And it's not just fisheries, it's aquaculture, it's offshore, it's all of the uses we put the ocean to, including, pollution, plastics, pharmaceuticals, all of the rest. There's a hell of a challenge there. And I think Scotland having masts helps to address those challenges. In addition, we're still training. We have the DTP, and we're still producing these people who hopefully understand parts of those challenges and can put their knowledge together. So the combination of the training we do, the science excellence we have in Scotland, and our relationships with government, I think put us in a good position. So I kind of wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and hope there are some positives to the future that we can look towards to meet these challenges.
Absolutely, and as you've just highlighted, MASTS over the years has adapted and worked flexibly, and no more than this year with the current situations and challenges that we've faced within MASTS and across Scotland and around the world as well. But thank you very much, Dave, for speaking to me. Very Merry Christmas, and have a wonderful 2021.
Yeah, it's too early for the mulled wine, but I'm ready for it at least. But I would seriously like just to say to everyone, the efforts that people have put in to support MASTS, the training yourself, the team at MASTS, etc., it's hugely appreciated, and I think it's recognised widely.
If you would like to find out more about MASTS, then please check out our website. You'll also find on this very YouTube channel all our previous MASTS casts, the webinars that happened over the spring and summer of 2020. There are so many episodes there. I really recommend that you check them out. Great topics were covered in those webinars. And also, please check out our Twitter, our LinkedIn, and sign up to our mailing list if you haven't already, because that is the best way to keep up to date with MASTS and any other information that we will be putting out there in the next few months or potentially years as well. This is everything from me for 2020, so I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.